Algebra 2, we're in 2.6, and I'm hoping you got a paper that says 2.6 notes that's typed. If you didn't get the 2.6 notes, as soon as you figure out you didn't get that, pause the video, email me. I'll try to get a PDF out of it to make sure, because I'm not sure. I was going through my stack of handwritten notes, and mine wasn't in there, so I wonder if maybe yours wasn't in there either, or maybe it was in a separate stack, because mine was in a separate stack, and I'm pretty positive I gave you a practice quiz out of the folder that's in this stack, so I'm suspecting I probably gave you these notes, but I have no way to really be sure of that at this moment. So, but I'm working from this paper. It says notes 2.6, and it's all like typed up. So we're doing inequality work problems is what we're after. So homework problem 1 is like the first example that I'm doing. It says you rent a car for $39.95 per day. So I'm going to write down $39.95 plus 25 cents per mile. So plus 25 cents, I'm going to go 0.25 because this was a decimal here to go dollars and cents, and now that I'm cents, I need decimal on the 0.25. And then we have to think about what's going on. In these story problems, if you pay something once, that's just a number. If you're paying a lot of something, a variable needs to work in with that. So if you rent a car, you pay them $39.95 once just for the day. So there's no variable with this, you just pay one of those payments. Then if you're paying 25 cents a mile, you'd expect to pay a lot of those. If you drove from Cheswick to New Kensington, you'd pay like 10 1/4 to drive 10 miles. But if you drove the car at Ocean City, Maryland, 400 miles away, you'd have to pay 400 of those quarters. So since there's a bunch of these, and we don't know how many miles we're going, that's where the variable is going to factor in. Then it asks you what mileage is, plural. Some of these questions have a single number answer, some have a plural answer. Look for words that end in S. If the word ends in S, you have a plural answer, like lots of answers. So it asks what mileages, plural, allow you to stay within a budget of 100. So we're going to go with some sort of symbol here and then 100. The symbol will never be a straight out equal sign. It's always going to have something to do with a greater or less, or a greater equal or a less than equal. If you have a $100 budget, you can either spend the full budget of $100 or you can stay under the budget. But if you ever have a job and the boss is like, hey, here's a project, your budget is $100. If you spend the whole $100, they're going to be okay with that. If you stay under the $100, they'll probably be happier about it, but they're okay with it either way. So if we're within the budget, we could be less or equal to 100. So the problem has been created, and then we go off. Solving this, we just do what we've been doing all along. We're going to now do some opposites. We want to add or subtract first, so I'll subtract this number to get 0.25x less than or equal to 60.05. We're going to divide by this number, divide by the 0.25, so grab a calculator and that comes out 240.2. And then the unfortunate fact of car rental life is you can never only pay for 240.2 miles. If you rent a car and you drive 240.2 miles, they will charge you for 241 miles. You pay for every full mile, and if you go a little bit beyond a full mile, you pay for the next full mile. So if your budget has to stay less or equal to 240.2, 240.2 itself will not be an okay answer. We can't equal 240.2. Even though algebra said 240.2, the actual dollar real world would say no, you'd have to pay for 241. So we're going to have to round a lot of stuff down all the time, no matter what. 240.2, for this to be a true thing, we would need to stick with 240 or less. You don't have to drive the full 240. If you want to stay within budget, you could drive 0 miles, 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles. You could go as high as 240 miles. But if you go one speck above 240, they'll charge you for 241 and you don't have enough money to pay the bill. Anytime it's a plural question, like I described at the beginning about mileages, word that ends in S, you're going to need some kind of phrase involved to say it's this number or it's less, or this number or it's more, or something like that. Homework problem 2 is just like this second example that I'm doing. So we're in a class, we take 3 tests. You need at least 270 to get an A. So down at the end of this story, 270 is our mark we're shooting for, like we were shooting for the 100 before. But to get an A, you don't want to be under the 270. If you were under the cut, you'd have a B, C, D, F or something. We'd want to be above the cut or equal to it. If you need a 270 to get an A, 270 exactly with the equal sign would squeak it out. But ideally, you'd rather be the greater or equal. So far, we had a 91. And then we added on an 86. And then we would want to add on test 3, but test 3 is a mystery test. So that's just going to be where the variable goes for now, and we have a problem created. In every problem, you need to create a problem, and then do the solving from there. In the question part of this, it asks what scores, S, plural word. We've got to go some kind of phrase like this at the end, because there's not just one answer. There's lots of possible answers that can get you an A on this test. I'd probably add these first. Combine like terms kind of move. We've got 177 and X greater or equal to 270. If that's adding, I do opposite. I'll subtract 177. 270 subtract 177 would come out with a 93. And then we need to translate this back to English. Since there's an equal sign, 93 is good enough for us. Since there's no decimal, we don't have to worry about the rounding issue we had on the previous question. But we could say something like 93 or more, or at least 93, or no less than 83, or something about that. But what makes you get the A would be 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, anything that's above 93, or even 93 itself to just squeak it out. Homework questions 3 and 4 are like the next sample. So what we have going on here is there's 2 different items. So if we're going to put our money 2 different places, we need to figure out a way to name this. So if people were here, I would do a lead-in question, like if I have 10 cookies and I give 3 to this person, how many did I give to that person? 7. Well, why? There was math involved. 10 minus 3 is what made the 7 happen. If I had 10 cookies and I give you 2, how many went over there? 8. Why? 10 minus 2 gets to 8. What's going on in this story is you have maybe 10 of an item and you gave some to this person but don't know how many. Call that X. So what would go over here? 10 minus X. 10 minus 2 made 8. 10 minus X makes 10 minus X. Again, like if I had 12 of something and I gave you 4, I would give the other person 8 because 12 minus 4 is 8. If I had 12 of something and gave you a mystery number, the other person would get 12 minus the mystery number. It's always total minus one of them makes the other stack. So when we go into this story, we don't have cookies, we have $1,000 to invest. We're going to put some money in an investment that is 6%, which is 0.06. A couple days ago we had percentage problems. You always make percentages decimals by sliding the decimal left 2 positions. We have other money going in at 8% investment. It asks you what's the most. Okay, so this is going to be a singular answer. This is not an S word. This is like the most stuff. If a question says the most, the least, the answer, the is a singular kind of word, meaning just one answer. There's no phrase in this like the or less or more kind of things we did. But we're trying to figure out what's the most money we can invest at 6%. So the 6% money is my X. And then I need to go back to a thing like this. When we had 12 and we put X here, 12 minus X went there. I had 1,000 here and I put X of it there. This is 1,000 minus X going at the 8%. And now we're ready to try to make the equation after kind of breaking that down for a minute. Ruling on percentage reminder from last week, percentages always look to multiply. So 0.06 wants to multiply x, that makes you some money. 0.08 multiplies 1,000 minus x. To keep this as a group, we're going to need parentheses. So when these multiply, you make some money. When these multiply, you make some money. This question is referring to the total amount of money that you're going to make. So we're going to take 0.06 times x from multiplying these. We're going to take 0.08 times the parentheses group we just established. This made some money, this made some money. We want to add up our money, and we're making at least $75. At least means it's greater or equal to 75. At least is always this symbol, at most is always less than equals. This is going to take a little more work to solve than the other ones did. We're going to have to distribute. So 0.06x plus 0.08 times 1,000 is 80 minus 0.08x greater or equal 75. We have some like terms. The negative term is bigger, so negative 0.02x is adding 80, and that shouldn't be a decimal there, that's just a straight mark, greater than or equal to 75. Subtract the 80, and we get a negative 5 when 75 subtracts 80. When we divide, negative dividing negative is positive. But remember, the sign is a turn when we have a negative with the variable multiplying or dividing. If we do that, we're going to get 250. So numbers that would make this true, 250 itself would make this a true story. So would anything smaller, 249, 248. Anything that's 250 and down is going to work in this story. But we don't want a big list. We don't want a big phrase. It asks, what's the most you can do? Well, out of this 248, 249, 250 world, the most of that world is the 250 itself. 250 would be that answer. Here's a what if. If this didn't have an equals, this wouldn't have an equals, this wouldn't have an equals. Neither would this. Neither would this. So 250 would go out. 250 itself is not less than 250. So we'd be working stuff like 249, 248, 247, 246. Those are the types of numbers that make this true, because those numbers are less than 250. But if I ask you what's the most, the absolute most you could do, it would not be 249. If you wanted to squeeze every single penny out of this, because you're super greedy, you want every penny you could get, the most you could do to stay under 250 is $249.99. So with the equals there, 250 was in. But if a question ever takes out the equals and strictly stays under 250, don't go too far under 250, just go under by a penny. It said what's the most, so don't go $1 under, go a penny under. So that's homework 3 and 4. Homework 5, I have no example that's like homework problem number 5. I always tell people just try it. Okay? If it runs into trouble, we'll work on that next time. Homework question 6 is like the one that I'm about to do. It says you got a new job. You could get paid one of two ways. You could either get paid 600 plus 4%, which is 0.04, on all of your sales. We don't know how much we're going to sell, so I'll do X for how much you sell. Some jobs are like that. If you go buy appliances somewhere, some appliance stores will try to always get you to buy a more expensive thing, because the salesman gets paid based on what you buy. They're going to make like 4% of what they sell, or 3%, or whatever percent. Shoe stores, different stores where there's sales involved. Sometimes the person will always try to upsell you into something expensive because they'll make more money on the sale if the sale is more. Some salesmen work on what it's called commission. So that's plan A here. You get $600 a month, you get 4% times anything you sell. Then there's a plan B. You get $800 for the month, which seems better, is better. You get 6% commission, which seems better, but maybe isn't better, because the 6% you only get on sales that are over 10,000. So on this plan, if you sold $10,000 worth of stuff, you would get 4% of that 10,000 and your 600. But over here, if you sold $10,000 worth of stuff, you get no percentage because you only get paid for stuff that's over 10,000. You'd only get the 800. If you sold like $10,001 worth of things, the boss would say, that's nice, you sold $10,001 worth of stuff, you'll get some money off of that, but you only get 6% of that one extra dollar. Okay? The first $10,000 don't get you paid anything. You only get paid for the sales that went above the 10,000. But if you went way above the 10,000, let's say you sold $50,000 worth of merchandise. Well, the first 10,000 didn't help you, but if you sold 50,000, you get a percentage on the 40,000. The way we'd have to express this is with a parentheses group. If you're only getting paid for the amount over 10,000, we would need our X, which was our sales, to subtract the first 10,000 because you're not getting paid for that. Okay, so plan A, 600 plus 4% of everything. Plan B is 800 plus 6%, but only the stuff subtracting 10,000. You don't get paid for the first 10,000 at all. The question says, for what sales, a word that ends in S, so that's a plural answer, so we'll need a phrase on this. We want plan A to be better. So this was plan A, so we want that symbol going that way. As always, I would look to distribute first. So this side is okay for now. This side, if we distribute the 0.06, subtract, we get a 600 off of that. I'd work this side to combine like terms. 800 subtracting 600 is 200. Just copying this, working that out. We have a variable on each side. I would choose to eliminate this one. It's not wrong if you eliminated this one, but I'm going to avoid a negative. So if I subtract this to eliminate it, I'm just left with 600. Over here still a 200. If I subtract the 04, I'd have an 02x. This is adding, so I'd have to subtract that out of there. Subtracting 200 is 400. Still the 02x. To get the x alone, no thought of any terms because there's no negatives anywhere to be seen. If I divide, this will turn into 20,000. We wanted a plural answer, like with a phrase to describe this. So the best way to describe this is just to say like less than 20,000. The 20,000 is more than what we're doing. So under 20,000, something like that. Less than 20,000. 20,000 itself would not work. Homework 7 and 8. I'll just squeeze into this little area right here. That should fit. This isn't a very big one compared to the two we just did. So homework 7 and 8 are like this. They say painter can get paid two ways. You get $500 for showing up and starting the job. Plus, we'll go $4 per hour. Back to a conversation from first problem. You only get $500 once for showing up and starting the job. Then you're getting paid $4 every hour you're there. You get $4. That's where a variable is going to go multiplied. So the x would be counting how many hours you work. So if you work 90 hours times 4 plus that 500 for your supplies and just taking the job. Plan B, you don't get that $500, but you get paid $9 per hour, but there's no show-up money. So we're going to just go 9x on that. Then it asks, for what amount is plan A better? For what hours, plural? So we're going to go phrase kind of answer on this. And what I meant here is for plan A to be better for the painter. For plan A to be better for the painter, we're going to go this way. But as a what if I asked for what makes Plan A better for the person who employed the painter, we would no longer go greater, we'd go less. I don't think the homework does that kind of trick on you, but if they did, think about point of view on things. If this plan is better for the painter, do that if we're talking about the painter's perspective. But then we'd have to do this if you're talking about the person who hired them's perspective. With a variable on each side, I'd subtract this one to get the variable one just to one side. That would get me 5x. If I subtracted 4x, that leaves 500. Divide by the 5, so that's going to be 100. There's no equal sign here, so 100 itself is bad. What we want to go with is an answer like stay under 100. Because for this to be a true story, the numbers we could put here could be anything other than 100. 99.9999, 99, 98, 10, 5, 1, 0. Anything less than 100, anything under 100 would be a true answer on that. So where we are in this homework, there's a 79, 1 to 8. I told you which ones are like which ones. The only thing you didn't have an outstanding pattern for was 5. 5 is kind of a one-of-a-kind problem. So I'll say just try it, see how it goes.